The New York Times, a former newspaper, says it has obtained a list of questions that Special Counsel Robert Mueller wants to ask President Trump as part of his investigation into imaginary collusion with Russia during its completely ineffectual attempt to rig our election, which is very important because my name is... The Times reported that Mueller had as many as 50 questions he wanted to ask the president, including some questions like, where do you get those great red ties, and what club do you use off the fairway on the fourth hole at Mar-a-Lago, that do not appear to have anything to do with Russian collusion. But since that's imaginary anyway, the special counsel figured he might as well get a few golf tips in while he was at it. But there are also some important and possibly tricky questions on the list, including question 17. If you had colluded with Vladimir Putin, what would you have said to him? And could you please speak slowly and clearly into the potted plant while you're answering, and if possible, do a Russian accent? There's also question 23. Where's the collusion talk, you smarmy lowlife, or I'll smack you with this phone book again? And question 36. If I admit I've been wasting the public's time and money, would you give me a job in your administration? Trump's lawyers say they are weighing whether to allow the president to answer Mueller or to sneak him out of the White House through the Rose Garden disguised as a Chick-fil-A delivery guy. Trump himself was unavailable for comment because he was busy ending the Korean War. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shaped, ipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
All right, that one caught me a little off guard. I write these things and then I forget them and I hit the jokes and they crack me up. Today is the last mailbag before... God! Oh! This place is terrifying! Please help me. Get me out of here. This is the Klavanless week is coming. Speaking of terrifying, something that Jess was just telling, our makeup lady was just saying that this is earthquake weather because it's really cold now. It's going to be 90 degrees. For some reason, that's earthquake weather. That would be fitting because the Klavanless week is coming. So prepare yourself, store water, food, little pills, possibly, if you just want to check out. But the Daily Wire, the good news is the Daily Wire is now on Apple News. So if you add us to your news channels, you can get your latest stories on the go. And you should remember, because I won't be here to remind you, that May the 13th is Mother's Day. And you know what that means. Right. For once in your lousy, ungrateful life, you have to do something nice for somebody besides yourself. It should be your mom because she gave birth to you. And if she didn't, she took care of you and pretended she gave birth to you. So go to 1-800-Flowers. That's the best way to do it because they have got it really is a truly beautiful, beautiful 24 multicolored roses bouquet for just $24. That is a really good deal. That's just $1 a rose. You can show your mom how much you appreciate the fact that she put up with you and think about what that meant because look at you. I mean, so you want to go to 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers is giving you an exclusive 24 for 24 offer. It's a beautiful mix of premium roses and a rainbow of colors. They're guaranteed to show mom just how much she's loved, even by the ungrateful likes of you. They're the perfect way to surprise all of the moms in your life, whether it's a wife, aunt, sister, grandma. Roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak so that they last, and 24 multicolored roses for only $24 is really a good deal. It expires soon. So to order 24 stunning multicolored roses for only $24, go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click the radio icon and enter code Klavan. How do you spell it? I knew you'd ask. How did I know that? It's like I can read. It's like I'm psychic. I don't know. I just have these feelings sometimes. It's Klavan, 1-800-Flowers.com, code Klavan. So the title of today's show is Your Culture is My Underpants. I am wearing the complete Chinese history. The entire Ming dynasty is now embroidered on my butt. All of Black American history is in my crotch. It's like the entire. Why? I'll tell you why. Because it's not your culture. Your culture is not yours. It's just there. And I am a free American, and I will do anything with your culture I choose to do. I chose to put it on my underwear, and I won't even tell you what I'm going to choose to do with it later on today. But these guys, bullies and parasites, socialists and social justice warriors are just parasites and bullies. They have these wonderful names: socialists, social justice warriors. They're just parasites and bullies. They are. Yesterday was May 1st. And May 1st, I remember when May 1st, we would dance around the maypole and, the knights would have jousts. And I go back a long way. I remember, it used to just be you celebrate spring and you celebrate love. And it was the lusty month of May, as they said in Camelot. And then in the 1800s, when was it? It was 1886. There was a big riot in Chicago in Haymarket Square. It was called the Haymarket Riots, very famous. There had been a big strike of workers. They were mobilizing for an 8-hour day and all these things. And on May 4th, the police came into this demonstration, and a bomb went off. It killed 4 cops, I think it was, and it killed 4 cops and like 7 civilians. And it killed 7 cops and 4 civilians. My mistake. 7 cops and 4 civilians. A huge riot started, the famous Haymarket riot. 8 anarchists were convicted. One of them committed suicide. Several of them were hanged. It turned public opinion against the workers' movements. But it also, the workers then got these martyrs from the Haymarket, the guys who were killed because they said that it hadn't been proved that they were the guys who set off the bombs. So now, May 1st, these guys go out and they protest for socialism. And all around the world, there are marches for socialism. Anarchists are out there, like setting fires. They're carrying pictures of Stalin. And they are. It's Stalin. Stalin was this guy. You're sitting next to Stalin and he would say, I'm going to appoint you my successor. No, I think I'll kill you instead. That's what it was. It was like you lived in this palace with Stalin, and he would just, snap his fingers, and they'd take your husband away, or you away, or your kids away, and they'd shoot you down. And this was after he had slaughtered tens of millions of people by causing famines in order to. And he would say, these are, what did they call them? I can't remember. Culottes, something like that. Some word they had for these poor peasants who just had a little bit of land, so they were chasing them off the land. It really, socialism is always a disaster. It always is. But here's the thing about it. The reason I call it a parasite is when you listen to people praise socialism, what they do is it's globalism for me, but for me, but not for thee. It's globalism for me, but not for thee. When an American worker loses his job, but some poor worker gets a job because of globalization, right? So the workers that we have who have rights and who get paid better, they lose their job and the job goes off to another part of the world. These citizens of the world types, these elite globalists, they say, oh, well, it's all in all, it's a net gain. Yes, some American workers lost their jobs, but the worker in this poor country, he got a job. So it's a net gain for we citizens of the world. So they're big citizens of the world when it hurts America. But when America looks bad, suddenly it's all one nation at a time. So then they suddenly say, well, Norway, people in Norway are much happier. That, polls, surveys actually show this. People in Norway are much happier because of the social spending. There's all this social spending in Norway, and they're much happier than in America. And my feeling is, did they use cell phones? Because they were invented by capitalists. Do they use cars? Because those were invented by capitalists. Do they use computers invented in America? Do they use the internet invented by us? Everything they use that makes their life so happy came out of the competitive, harsh world of capitalism. Do they have an army that would protect them if Vladimir Putin one day said, you know what, I'd like Norway. I think I'll have Norway. That would be nice. No, they know that Putin won't invade them because our army protects them. They live off capitalism. If they're happy in the way children are happy. Because when my kids were little, they were happy because they didn't have to make a living for them. That's why they're happy. Socialism is a parasitical. It's a parasitical system. It just lives. If it doesn't live off capitalism, if it doesn't use what capitalism has, it collapses like you get in the Soviet Union, like you're getting now in Venezuela. And then they have to build walls around the country to keep people out. Here in capitalist countries, we build walls to keep people from coming in, right? But there they want to build walls to keep their citizens out because people want to get out. They want to make money. They want to do things for their own profit because they're human beings. It's always a parasitical system. And because, the thing about Marx, they had that article in the New York Times that I was making fun of yesterday. Happy birthday, Karl Marx. You were right. Marx was right about nothing. He was not, first of all, his entire first premise is that capitalists make money by exploiting the workers. And the reason he said this is because he thought that the value of something, you take some scrap metal, some workers put together a car, and now the scrap metal is worth more than the car. So the workers must have added the value to the scrap metal. But where'd they get the plans for the car? Where'd they get the money to build the factory? Where'd they get the money to build all the cars? You know, you can hire another set of workers. Kind of hard to get that many billionaires to build factories, and very hard to get somebody to come up with the idea of the car, you know? So it's like not really, I mean, workers do add value to material. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying that they don't add the same kind of value that the capitalists add. They don't add the same kind of value that the creators add. And the other thing, of course, is if capitalists are exploiting the workers, why is it that countries like ours, where we have so many billionaires, I think we have 5 times as many billionaires as the Middle East and Africa combined, okay? So you'd expect to see exploited workers all over the place. Instead, you see workers who are fighting obesity. You know, they have to decide which cable channel to watch. Our workers are poor. Never mind our workers. Our poor are the rich in other countries. Our poor are the upper middle class in Mexico. I mean, so things go really well here. And so, yeah, there's a relative disparity between the billionaire capitalist and his worker. There's a bigger disparity maybe. But everybody is doing so much better because capitalism raises all ships. Everything about Marxism is wrong. You know, I had dinner with Rupert Murdoch once. Have I told this story before? I had a dinner. It was me and like 3 other guys. And we just had dinner at Rupert's house up in the hills of Beverly Hills. Beautiful, beautiful house. You come in and the butler takes your jacket and offers you like, what can I get you? And I like single malt scotch. I figure it's Rupert Murdoch. I'll bet he has my scotch. He did. You know, they just go off and get, oh, it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And at one point, I guess I can call him Rupert. We had dinner together. Rupert said to me, so you write screenplays, and of course he has 20th Century Fox, right? He says, if a man comes, and I've gotten this from studio heads before, by the way, if a man comes to my house and fixes my toilet, I pay him once and not again. If you come in and write a screenplay, why do I have to keep paying you residuals? So I began to answer him because the answer is I'm not, as a writer, I'm not a worker, I'm a creator. I'm actually inventing something, so you have to pay me every time you use it, and you're really getting off well. Because, you know, it's not only socialists who don't understand how economics works, it's billionaires. But the thing about billionaires is billionaires don't listen, they talk. This is absolutely true. Every billionaire I've ever met doesn't listen to you, they talk. And the reason they talk is because they figure if you were as smart as they were, you'd have $1 billion. And there's a certain wisdom that billionaires have because they're like cops. They see the worst in people because they almost never see anybody who's not asking them for something. I mean, people just feel like, I remember we had a billionaire in a church I belonged to, and he loved me. And I could never figure out, you know, why does this guy love me? It's because I never asked him for anything. I never wanted anything. I was, you know, I made my own living. I didn't have to ask him. But everybody else, it was like, I have this charity, I have this fund, I have this business. So they get a certain wisdom about people. But but Rupert didn't understand where the goodness of what I did was coming from and why I got paid on a perennial basis. Here's a story, true story, right? I gave this once in a speech about copyright, because a lot of people don't think there should be copyrights. You shouldn't be allowed to have an intellectual copyright. I said, let me tell you about copyrights. Here's how copyrights work. I worked my fingers to the bone to become a good writer. I worked through the night. I would go to school sometimes. A lot of times I didn't go to school, but I would work through the night to become a really good writer. I would read and read and read, study to become a good writer. One day, after I had my daughter, she's a little baby, right? I lived in an apartment in New York, and we had walled off a little nook for the baby, and we would sleep in the bedroom. And every night, I would walk across the living room to check on the baby to make sure she was still breathing, right? Because you worry the kid will just stop. You know, that's what you do. Once you have kids, you worry for the rest of your life. One day I'm walking across the living room and I thought, wouldn't it be weird or scary if I looked into the nursery and she was just gone and the baby was gone? And I got this idea for a novel about kidnapping. It became my novel, Don't Say a Word. Now, when that idea occurred to me, I was a practiced writer. I had honed my craft. I'd already won some awards for writing. I was a really good writer. That book ultimately it became a bestseller, but it also became a movie with Michael Douglas. A lot of dollars were generated by that film. It was the #1 film in the country when it came out. It was the #1 DVD for weeks and weeks and weeks when it came out as a DVD. It generated a lot of jobs, okay? Now, my life has generated jobs for a lot of people. My creativity has generated jobs for a lot of people. It has also put kids through schools. I won't say I put my wife through school because she was part of the money that I made, so she put herself through school essentially. But all of that fed into people becoming productive members of society. What do socialists do? What do socialists do? They do nothing. What do they create? They create nothing. What do they add to society? Nothing. Those guys who are marching in the streets in Europe and burning things and setting on fire, where have they ever created a moment of wealth, a penny of wealth? All they talk about is how to pirate the wealth of other people. And so they're complete parasites. They're sitting there. They think they're important because they've got their fists in the air. They think they're important because they're screaming words like justice that they don't understand, because justice means getting what you deserve. It doesn't mean taking what somebody else made and taking it for yourself. That's not justice. That's being a parasite. So they're complete parasites. And when they then try to justify their existence by working for social justice, a word that means not justice, right? Because justice is a word that actually has a meaning. It means people getting what they deserve. Social justice means taking from people who have earned things. They become bullies. That's all they do is their entire, there's this girl out there, and this is why, by the way, I talk about not apologizing, why not apologizing is so important. This girl, Keziah Dom, 18-year-old girl. Do we have a picture of her? Can we put a picture of her up? She posted her prom picture. Absolutely lovely young lady, 18 years old. She's got this dress that looks like it has a kind of Chinese pattern. I mean, nothing but joy in this picture. The guy is standing there thinking, how did I get this lucky? Right? He is thinking, if I just hope that Keziah does not find out the truth about me, because I am now the luckiest kid in America. And he is. She's absolutely beautiful. She's adorable. She's wearing the dress. Twitter, the bully place, the place where bullies go because they don't get punched in the face as they deserve, so they go on Twitter because they can bully people. One guy said, what did he say? My culture is not your prom dress. Guess what? Yes, it is. Yes, it is, my friend. Your culture is her prom dress and my underwear, because I am wearing Chinese underwear right this moment. It's just pictures of Chinese people on my butt. That's what it is. Because you don't own your culture. You didn't do anything to create it. You didn't do anything. You haven't created anything. All you are is a bully. You're not a warrior. You're not fighting for justice. You're just bullying a pretty girl who's given this guy joy and having joy in her prom dress. Luckily, Finally, some of these people are standing up to these bullies. And she did. She said, I would do it again. I mean, they just came after her. And after her, it's like, what do these people produce? What do they produce? They didn't even make my underwear. I had to paint those Chinese people on my underwear. I had to do it myself. So I'm really happy she's standing up for them. I'm really happy. This is something that is emanating from Donald Trump. It is no question that it is emanating from his pugilistic nature, some of the things that are very disturbing about him, the way he fights like a lion whenever anybody insults him, but some of that is rubbing off on people. Kanye West, he is another one. Kanye West is on TMZ, and he went on a rant. And I love when people go on right-wing rants, they went raving or they lost it and said these things, but Kanye's just being Kanye at this point. I was just talking to Knowles about this wonderful old book called Being There. It was made into a movie. And Being There is about this kind of complete innocent who walks around saying these kind of innocent things, but everybody keeps interpreting them as wisdom. And I feel like we're all doing that with Kanye now. Like, I had no idea what Kanye is talking about. But he says he loves Donald Trump. Play the first cut. This is cut number 2. And it's just nice to hear the guy not backing down because they've been bullying for days. Maxine Waters said, we have got to get control. Kanye has got to reign. It's like, what business is it of hers what Kanye says? Anyway, I just like the fact that he is saying what he's saying. Cut number 2.
My righteous point of view is free thought. Now, if you want to ask me, I don't have extremely strong political opinions. You could talk to John Legend if you want some political. I've never been into politics. I just love Trump. That's my boy. It's like so many rappers. You'll look at a video of Snoop Dogg loving Trump, but then he get in the office and now they don't love him. Like, Trump is one of rap's favorite people, right?
But we talk about this, that before he was elected president, people in hip hop, it was an in thing to put Donald Trump in your rhyme somewhere.
And by the way, I'm in hip hop, but I'm not just in hip hop. I'm a black person in the black community, but I'm not just that. I feel like one thing is people try to minimize me to artists, hip hop, black community. Yeah, I'm always gonna represent that, but I also represent the world. I represent not even the future, it's the now, 2018. We're in the now, bro, you know what I mean? And I represent the now, and I represent what the possibilities of a new peaceful planet. We're at the beginning of it. You saw the North Korea, but people denounce that. And you say, you said this thing, you put this whole thing, people love to say all, every, blah, blah, blah. It's not that. It's 100 sides to every story. So if you talk about Trump, yeah, there's a laundry list of things that I don't have in front of me that my friends will text me or write me emails and say, he did this. Some of them Obama did too, you know, but it wasn't, it's loud and say, wow, the room is quiet in here. The room is.
What the hell is he talking about? I don't know what he said. I heard the part that he loves Trump. And that thing about Trump being in all those rap songs is true, because in rap, they've always got the gold and the jewelry, and Trump has that kind of, rich guy, belligerent rich guy attitude that they love, that the rap guys love. So he's absolutely right about this. Then he goes off on some other thing. I have no idea what he's saying, but I'm just glad he's saying it. I really am. I'm really glad that he is not backing down. I think we should just celebrate that. The guy is weird. But then he said this thing about slavery. Everybody got upset about this. Play that one.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years,
Can you roll this up?
for 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all? It's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks. It's like slavery, Holocaust Jews, slavery is blacks. So prison is something that unites us as one race, blacks and whites being one race. That we're the human race.
Prison unites us all. We're all in prison as the human race. I mean, people were picking on him because he said slavery is a choice. Obviously not. Although he said there weren't slaves here for 400 years. I mean, there haven't been Europeans here for 400 years. So I don't even know where that meme comes from. I'm not sure where that thought comes from. Who knows what he's saying? But I'm just glad he's out there. I'm glad. The other one, Matt Groening. They were picking on Apu. That really broke my heart because I love Hank Azaria, who was doing the voice of Apu. And Groening said, I'm proud of what we do on The Simpsons, and I think it's a time in our culture where people love to pretend they're offended. They love to pretend because there's power. If you can bully an 18-year-old girl into being sorry she wore a prom dress, you're a big man. You're a big man on Twitter. Yeah, you can go home. You can go home, brag to the guys. Yeah, I made an 18-year-old girl feel bad about her prom dress. I mean, that's who they are. My favorite, I think, has been Roseanne. I'm not even a fan of Roseanne. I was out of the country when her show was big, but she was on Jimmy Fallon, and he brings up delicately, because Fallon, every time he touches Trump, it explodes in his face. But Fallon asks her about this. And she's, again, these guys are now demonstrating how not to apologize.
But then also with the big hit comes people that aren't so happy as well. If you say that you're a supporter of Donald Trump or...
Oh, yeah, people are mad about that.
Yeah.
But, I don't give a
Yeah. I mean, is that how you deal with it?
Everybody had to choose for themselves, according to their own conscience, who they thought was the lesser of two evils. Everybody chose that, so I'm not going to put anybody down who didn't vote like me. This is America. It's a free country, and, when you weigh it all together, I just felt like we needed a whole new thing all the way, bottom to top.
See, I just love this. I love that this is happening. It's happening because of Trump. It's also happening in support of Trump, but it's happening because of Trump. It's happening because people are tired of these guys who don't produce anything. They are parasites, and then they are bullies. There's no justice in it. There's nothing social about it. It is just parasitism and bullying, and that's all it is. And these people are creators. You don't have to like Roseanne, you don't have to like Kanye, but they create stuff. They create jobs, they create wealth, they create money, they do what capitalists do. They make stuff that other people use, that other people live off. They invent stuff, they make stuff, they build stuff, they create wealth, and all the rest of these guys are just mouths. And what they're asking for is a piece of the pie. You know how you get a piece of the pie? Make a new piece. Make yourself a piece of the pie. the pie, become a creator, because these guys, as far as I'm concerned, they can all pound sand. Your culture is my underwear. That is what I want you to take away from this conversation. Speaking of people who create things and jobs and wonderful atmosphere here at the Daily Wire, starting this Sunday, May 6th, you can watch and listen to more Ben Shapiro in a brand new edition of his podcast, The Ben Shapiro Show Sunday Special, in which Ben hosts weekly in-depth conversations with the nation's best and brightest on politics, news, culture, and everything in between. The best part is for current Ben Shapiro Show subscribers, because you won't even need to hit a separate button to listen. These episodes will show up in your feed. So subscribe now. Get them all. This Sunday's premiere episode will feature Jordan B. Peterson. He will be singing the entire score of The Sound of Music. I just made that up. But tune it in. All right, we got the mailbag coming up. If you want to be in the mailbag when I come back from my vacation, because this is the last mailbag to solve your problems before my vacation, come on over to the Daily Wire and subscribe. I got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube, but if you come on over to the Daily Wire, you can listen to the rest of the show. If you subscribe for a lousy $10 a month, lousy $100 for the whole year, you can just watch the show there and ask questions in the mailbag. It will change your life, maybe for the better. Who knows?